The village of Luma 3 was quiet, lost in the middle of a red desert on a forgotten planet. The people there lived simple lives. They didn't have machines or advanced tools, only old stories about the stars, passed down from the elders. They believed humans were a myth. Long ago, they said, humans used to travel the stars, helping those in need. But now they were just legends. One day the sky tore open like paper and something fell. It wasn't a rock or a star. It was a metal ship, half broken, smoking, crashing into the sand, not far from the village. Everyone was afraid. They gathered in the center of the village and whispered among themselves. No one had ever seen such a thing, except her. Her name was Sari. She was different, curious. She had always dreamed of the stars. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her. One day, she had said, a star walker will come. And when he does, you must not run. You must help. So, while the others stayed behind, Sari walked toward the crash. The ship was silent now, one side buried in sand. Sari approached carefully. The door was open, half melted. Inside, sparks flickered, and then she saw him, a man. Tall, injured, with dark clothing and a metal device on his arm. His face was bleeding, but his eyes opened slowly when she stepped closer. She froze. He looked at her, surprised, confused, but not afraid. He tried to speak, but his voice was rough. Water. Sari pulled her water skin from her belt and helped him drink. He coughed and leaned back. Thank you, he whispered. I am sorry, she said softly. You fell from the sky. He gave a weak smile. Name's Commander. Riven Holt, of Earth? Earth, the word echoed in her mind. The lost home of the humans. So the stories were true. Over the next few days, Sari cared for Riven in secret. She brought him food and water, helped him clean his wounds, and tried to understand the strange things he said. His machine on his wrist was broken, but sometimes it blinked with light. Why did you fall here? She asked one night as they sat near the wreckage. I was in a battle, Riven said. My ship was hit. I barely escaped. I didn't mean to land here, but maybe it was fate. Are there more humans like you? She asked. He nodded. Out there, yes, but many are gone. War, time. It changed everything. Sari felt something strange in her chest. A feeling of hope and fear, but not everyone in the village was blind. Some hunters had followed her. One morning, Sari awoke to shouts, He's here! The demon from the sky. They surrounded the wreck. Riven stood up weakly, shielding Sari, but he didn't raise a weapon. He only said, I'm not your enemy. The chief of the village, old and wise, stepped forward. You are a starfaller. We have not seen your kind in many years. Sari stepped in front of Riven. He is not a demon, he is human. Like in the stories. The chief looked at her, then at Riven. And what will this human bring us? Hope or danger? Riven, though, tired, stood tall. I may be one man, but I can help. If you let me. That night, the village sat around the fire. The elders spoke in low voices. Sari sat beside Riven, quietly watching the stars. You saved me, he said, even when you didn't know me. Sari looked at him. It's what we're taught. To thank those who help us, even with everything. She paused, remembering what her elders had told her, that women should offer deep thanks to men who protect them. It was an old way, passed down long ago, but Riven shook his head gently. You don't owe me anything, Sari. Kindness should never come with a price. She smiled softly. Then let me thank you in a new way. I'll stay by your side. Teach. You our ways, and maybe you can teach me yours, Riven nodded. That sounds like a good beginning. Above them, the stars blinked gently, as if watching. The village of Luma 3 slowly accepted the stranger from the stars. Riven was not strong. Enough to help much, but the people began to see he was not dangerous. He spoke little, but when he did, his words had weight. Sari stayed close to him. Guiding him through the ways of the village, Riven would sit with the children and tell them stories about Earth, about green trees, fast ships, and oceans that stretched forever. The children laughed and asked, Is that real? And he would nod with a sad smile. Yes, once. One morning, while walking near the crash site, Sari noticed something strange. The sand near the wreck was shifting, like something below was alive. She called Riven over. "There is something here," she said, pointing. Riven crouched, touched the sand. He brushed away the top layer, and metal showed underneath. But this was not his ship. It was older, rusted, and hidden. "This isn't mine," Riven whispered. "This is from before what?" Sari asked. "Before Earth went silent. This could be an old Terran beacon. Or a defense drone." They began digging, using tools from the village. Some of the villagers joined, curious. After an hour of work, they uncovered the shape of a round metal dome. It had strange symbols on it. Riven pressed his hand against it. Nothing happened, but then the machine made a soft click. Lights blinked around its edge. A low hum rose from it, and the ground shook a little. Everyone stepped back. "It's waking up," Riven said. The villagers grew nervous. The chief came and asked, "What is this thing?" "I don't know yet," Riven replied, "but it's human-made, very old and powerful." The machine rose slightly from the sand and opened a small panel. A projection appeared in the air, flickering blue light in the shape of a man's face. "If you are hearing this," the voice said, "then Terra has fallen. This is Beacon Zeta. We have hidden knowledge here. If you are human, protect it." Then the projection vanished. Silence. "What knowledge?" Sari asked, looking at Riven. He stared at the machine. "Weapons, maps. Maybe the last history of Earth. This is a treasure, and someone out there will want it." That night, Riven sat alone near the dome, trying to connect his damaged wrist device to it. Sari brought him food and sat beside him. "Do you think others will come?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "If this beacon sent a signal, someone may have heard it. Pirates, machines, even enemies from the war." "But why is this place so forgotten?" she asked. "Why did no one come here before?" "Because humans lost so much," he replied. "We stopped looking, we stopped hoping." Sari thought for a while. "Maybe this place was waiting for the right person to come." Riven gave a small smile. "Maybe." The next morning, a strange sound came from the sky, a sharp, screeching noise. People looked up and saw something small, ships, dark and fast, flying toward them. Riven's eyes narrowed. Scouts, they followed the signal. The chief shouted to the villagers, "Hide the children! Get to the caves!" Riven grabbed his old weapon from the crash site. It sparked, but still worked. Sari ran with him to the edge of the village. "What are they?" "They're not human. They're harvesters. They collect old tech. They destroy everything else." The ships landed. Tall, thin machines stepped out, metal bodies with red eyes. They moved like hunters, silent and cold. One of them pointed at Riven and spoke in a robotic voice. "Human, surrender the beacon." Riven raised his weapon. "Come and take it." They fired. The battle was fast. Riven fought hard, but he was weak. The villagers threw stones and spears, trying to help. Sari even jumped in, using a long farming tool to trip one of the machines. The fight ended with 3 broken machines in the sand. But Riven was hurt. His arm was cut, and he could barely stand. The rest of the scout ships flew away, but Riven knew they would return. "That was only the first wave," he said. "The signal brought them. More are coming." The chief looked at the beacon. "Then we must destroy it." "No," Riven said quickly. "This is our history, our future. We can't lose it again." Sari stepped forward. "Then we protect it together." Riven looked at her, surprised but grateful. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," she replied. "You didn't run when we needed you. We won't run now." The next few days were filled with tension. The sky was clear, but everyone in Luma 3 felt the storm coming. The villagers repaired broken walls, sharpened their tools, and watched the sky at night. They knew the enemy would return this time with more machines. More fire. Sari stayed close to Riven, who was still weak but recovering. His injuries slowed him, but his mind stayed sharp. He spent hours near the ancient beacon, trying to unlock more data. "Did you find anything?" Sari asked one evening. "Yes," Riven replied, showing her a blinking screen on his wrist device. "Old maps, codes, even a hidden message from Earth's past leaders." He pointed to a symbol glowing on the screen. "This is the mark of the Terran resistance. They were the last defenders of Earth before it fell. This beacon was meant to guide survivors back to hope. Can it help us now? Sari asked. Riven nodded slowly. Yes, but only if we protect it, and we'll need more than just courage. The next morning, Riven stood before the village. His voice was calm but firm. The machines will return. They want the beacon. If they take it, they'll destroy what's left of human history. I know you're farmers and builders, not soldiers, but you are strong. You stood against them once. We can do it again, the chief stepped forward. We believe you, Starman. Tell us what to do. Riven looked around. We need traps, barriers, and fire. I will help build weapons. Not all from metal, some from your tools, your land. And so the work began. Riven and Sari worked together with the villagers. They used old machine parts to create alarms, spikes, and even small energy bombs powered by crystals found near the caves. The villagers set nets in the sand and hidden pits near the beacon. Every day, Sari learned more about human technology. Riven explained things slowly, using simple words and drawings. She listened carefully, asking questions. He was surprised how fast she understood. You could be an engineer. He joked one day. She smiled. You could be a farmer. They laughed together, even as the world around them prepared for battle. On the sixth night, the sky turned red. It wasn't from the sunset. It was from fire in the clouds, burning trails of enemy ships falling toward the desert. This time there were many. The villagers gathered near the beacon. Children were sent to the caves. Everyone else stood ready. Riven checked his device. 24 ships. Maybe 30 machines. Sari's hands shook a little, but she stood firm beside him. We don't run. We don't run, Riven said. The ships landed hard, kicking up sand and fire. Tall metal machines marched out faster, stronger than the first ones. Their leader stood taller than the rest, with glowing red marks on its chest. I am Unit Prime, it said in a cold voice. Give us the beacon, live. Riven raised his weapon. We already chose. We fight. Unit Prime lifted its hand, and the battle began. The desert lit up with explosions. Traps snapped shut, catching the first wave of machines. Fire from hidden pits burned 2 of them. Villagers threw spears with burning tips. Riven's energy weapon shot blue bolts of light, hitting the machine's joints, but the machines kept coming. Sari fought with a long staff. She knocked down a scout bot and pulled a wounded villager to safety. Her heart raced, but she did not stop. Riven saw Unit Prime charging toward the beacon. He ran to block it, but the machine struck him hard, throwing him to the ground. You are weak, it said, raising its metal arm to crush him. But before it could strike, Sari threw a stone. It hit Unit Prime's head with surprising force. The machine turned toward her. She didn't run. I'm not afraid of you, she shouted. Unit Prime charged at her, but Riven, hurt and bleeding, rose again. With one last burst of energy, he activated the old beacon with his wrist device. The machine glowed and released a shockwave. The wave hit Unit Prime and the nearby machines, freezing them. Then one by one they shut down, falling into the sand like broken statues. The field fell silent. The villagers stood slowly, breathing heavy. The battle was over. They had won. The chief walked to Riven and Sari. You protected the past and saved our future. Riven looked at Sari. You didn't run, she smiled. You taught me that. They stood together under the red sky, surrounded by stars and sand and hope. After the battle, the village of Luma 3 was no longer the same. The walls had burn marks. The sand was dark with the remains of broken machines, but no one cried. No one ran. They had stood together and won. Riven's wounds were deep, but he refused to rest for long. With Sari's help, he repaired his wrist device and began connecting it fully to the old beacon. There's more inside this thing, he said. Old records, maybe messages from Earth, real voices. Sari sat beside him, wrapping a cloth around his arm. You think Earth still lives? Riven looked at her with tired eyes. I don't know, but maybe someone left a message for people like us, for those who didn't give up. The beacon made a soft hum. Its lights glowed brighter than before. Riven touched a small panel, and a hologram appeared again, this time more stable. It showed a woman. She wore a uniform with an old Earth flag. Her face was calm but sad. "This is Commander Ilana Rowe," the voice said. "If you're seeing, this Earth has fallen. The cities are gone. The skies are not ours, but if you're human, then listen." Sari watched closely as the message continued. "We hid beacons on outer worlds, places far from war. Each one holds memory seeds technology, knowledge, and stories. Everything we were. If even one beacon survives, then so do we." The hologram faded. Another one appeared, this time a group of children singing an old Earth song, then a man reading poetry, then soldiers speaking into the camera, one after another. "We fought so others could live. We loved and still hoped. Tell them Earth mattered." Sari felt tears in her eyes. So many voices, so much loss, and yet so much strength. "This is what they wanted us to remember," Riven said. "Not the war, but the people." Word of the victory spread to nearby villages. Small groups arrived, travelers, farmers, even old warriors. They wanted to see the beacon, to hear the voices. Riven became a guide, showing them how to listen to the records. He taught simple ways to protect their homes. He shared Earth stories, but he never took credit. When someone called him commander, he would laugh and say, "I'm just a lucky survivor." Sari stood beside him through it all. She helped organize the new visitors. She taught children how to repair small tools using what she had learned from Riven. The people began calling her the Star Girl. She didn't mind. One evening, while they watched the sunset together, Riven said, "I think Earth would have liked this place." Sari smiled. "Maybe this place is Earth." "In a small way," Riven looked thoughtful. "We don't need a planet to be human. We need courage, kindness, memory. That's what Earth really was." She nodded. "And you brought that here." "No," he said. "You all already had it. I just reminded you." But far in the sky, danger still moved, a deep space listening. Ship had caught the beacon's signal. This one didn't belong to small machines. It belonged to the Black Void, a powerful force that hunted the last human knowledge. The ship sent a message. "Beacon detected. Prepare to erase." A countdown had begun. Back on Luma 3, Riven noticed a strange pulse in his device. He frowned. "That's not good. What is it?" Sari asked. "A second signal, strong and not friendly. Something big is coming." Sari's face turned serious. "Bigger than before?" "Yes," Riven said. "Maybe a warship." The chief called a meeting that night. The villagers sat around the fire, joined now by new friends from nearby lands. "We are no longer a forgotten place," the chief said. "We have the voice of Earth, but others want to silence it." Riven stood. "This next fight will not be like the last one. We need more help, more knowledge." Sari looked at the beacon. "Is there something inside that can help us?" Riven paused, then smiled slightly. "Maybe. The beacon didn't just carry messages, it also carried blueprints. Earth tech. Defense systems. We just need time to build them." "Then we'll build," the chief said. "All of us." The days that followed were busy. Riven unlocked more files from the beacon, old plans for shield towers, energy walls, and warning systems. The villagers worked with determination, led by Sari and a few clever builders from the nearby towns. Together, they began to prepare not for survival, but for resistance. Riven watched them all with quiet pride. He sat next to Sari one night and said, "You've become something special." She looked at him and replied, "So have you." He shook his head. "I was broken when I came here. You gave me a reason to stand again." "You gave us all that?" she said softly. They looked up at the stars, burning quietly above them. Soon, the sky would burn again. But this time, they would be ready. The red sand of Luma 3 was no longer just soil, it was a battlefield in waiting. Everyone in the village worked day and night. The beacon stood in the center like a glowing heart, protected by new machines, walls, and brave people. The warning from Riven's device was clear. A warship from the Black Void was on its way. Not small scout bots like before this time, a destroyer. It would arrive in 3 days. There was no time to waste. Riven gathered the villagers and their new allies. "We have one chance. We don't have Earth's armies, but we have the beacon. We have each other. That's enough." The villagers nodded. Fear was in their eyes, but so was fire. Sari led a team of builders. Under Riven's guidance, they placed shield pylons around the village. These small towers would create a protective energy barrier once activated. They used old beacon blueprints and local crystals to power them. Children helped carry supplies. Elders sharpened spears and checked traps. Everyone had a job. Sari worked with her hands all day, fixing wires, connecting power cells, and helping others. At night, she sat near the beacon, reading Earth texts that Riven unlocked for her. She read about human unity during dark times, about people who stood together when hope was almost lost. The words stayed in her heart. "This is who they were," she whispered, "and who we can be." On the second night, while Sari adjusted the main beacon panel, Riven joined her. He looked tired but determined. "You've become a leader," he said. "I only follow the light," she replied. He smiled. "Sometimes following the light makes you one?" They stood in silence for a moment. Then Riven said, "I've added one last system. If the defense fails, the beacon will self-destruct." Sari's eyes widened. "You destroy it?" "If it falls into enemy hands, everything Earth left behind could be erased or twisted. We can't let that happen." She nodded slowly. "Then we fight harder so it never comes to that." On the third day, just before dawn, the sky darkened. Not from clouds, but from the shadow of a massive warship entering the atmosphere. Its engines roared like thunder. Lights flashed across its black surface. "It's here," someone shouted. Riven activated the shield pylons. A blue dome rose around the village. The people took their positions behind walls, rocks, and newly built towers. Sari stood near the beacon with a small command group. Riven checked his weapon. "This will be our last stand." The warship opened and hundreds of black drones poured out, fast, sharp, and deadly. They swarmed down like a wave of metal, but this time, the village was ready. The energy shield held strong against the first wave. The drones crashed into it and exploded. The shock made the ground shake, but the people did not fall back. When the shield dropped for a moment to let energy cool, the drones rushed in. The battle began. Sari led her team with calm strength. She gave orders, passed weapons, and helped defend the beacon. Her voice was clear, and people followed her without hesitation. Riven moved like a soldier again. He fired with skill, covered others, and pushed back the enemy. But each wave grew stronger. Explosions lit the sky. Fires burned in the sand. But the village fought on. When the third wave hit, a group of drones broke through the west wall. Sari ran to defend it, using an old energy staff. She struck one drone, jumped over another, and yelled to the guards, "Hold the line!" A drone flew toward her, but Riven tackled it in midair, smashing it with his weapon. He stood beside her, breathing hard. "We're still standing," he said. She nodded. "And we will keep standing." Then came the final challenge. A giant drone descended from the warship, larger than all others. Its arms were like cannons. Its head glowed with red light. It spoke in a cold voice. "This beacon belongs to the void now." "No," Riven shouted. "It belongs to Earth." The giant drone fired a blast toward the beacon. The energy struck the last tower. The shield dropped. Sari looked at Riven. "The self-destruct should we use it?" Riven hesitated. Then he saw something, an old cannon buried under the sand. It was part of the beacon's defense system. "I have one last idea," he said. He ran to the cannon, jumped inside the control seat, and connected his device. The cannon powered up with a loud hum. Lights blinked. Sari saw the drone charging. Another shot. Now Riven. The cannon fired. A beam of blue energy shot through the air and hit the drone. It exploded in a flash of fire and metal. Silence followed. Then cheers. The enemy had fallen. The beacon was safe. After the battle, the people gathered around the damaged but glowing beacon. The chief raised his hand and said, "We are no longer just villagers. We are protectors of Earth's legacy." Riven sat down, exhausted. Sari brought him water and smiled. "You did it." He looked at her. "We did." Above them, the sky was clear once again, but the message of Earth burned brighter than ever. The battle was over. Smoke still rose from the edge of the village, but the worst was behind them. The people of Luma 3 had done the impossible. They had protected the ancient beacon, defeated a warship, and proved that even in the far corners of the galaxy, humanity still had strength. But for Rivenholt, this was not the end. It was the beginning of something greater. The next day, under the rising sun, Riven and Sari stood beside the beacon. It hummed softly. Its light was steady, like a heartbeat. The last attack almost destroyed it, Sari said, placing her hand on the side of the beacon. Riven nodded. Yes, but it survived, just like Earth once did. He looked down at his wrist device, checking the readings. The beacon signal is still weak. It needs one final update, something strong, enough to reach far-off systems. If there are humans still out there, they'll hear it. Sari tilted her head. A final message? A message to the stars, Riven said. We tell them Earth isn't gone. Its people live on in places like this. That evening, the villagers gathered in the main square. Lanterns lit the area. With soft golden light, children sat on the ground. Elders leaned on walking sticks. The people waited, curious and quiet. Riven stepped forward. His voice was clear. This beacon once held Earth's memories. It carried voices from a world that most of you never saw. But today it will carry something new, our voices. He pointed to a small floating device above the beacon. This recorder will send a message into deep space. If any human survivors hear it, they'll know the truth, that we are still here. He looked at Sari and nodded. She stepped beside him, then, together, they spoke. We are the people of Luma 3. We live far from Earth, but we carry its memory. We were once simple farmers. Now we are defenders of hope. Earth fell, but its dream still burns. We are proof. If you hear this, you are not alone. Come home. Humanity still lives. The message was sent. The beacon glowed brighter for a moment, and then a new pulse began, stronger, cleaner, wider. It carried the message across the galaxy, through dust, stars, and time. Somewhere, maybe weeks or months from now, someone would hear it, and maybe they would answer. After the ceremony, Riven sat near the beacon, staring at the stars. His body was still sore, but his heart felt lighter. Sari joined him, carrying 2 cups of warm root tea. You look like a leader today, she said, handing him a cup. I never wanted to be one, Riven replied, but I guess the stars chose differently. She sat beside him. Do you think someone will hear the message? Yes, he said simply. I believe someone will. Humans are scattered, but we've always found our way back. They sipped their tea in silence for a while. Then Sari spoke softly. When I was little, I thought humans were legends. Now one of them sits beside me, drinking tea. And I thought kindness like yours was gone from the universe, Riven said. But I was wrong. The next morning, Sari woke early and walked to the canyon nearby. The wind was strong and birds flew in the sky. She stood there thinking the world had changed. She had changed, from a curious girl who chased starfallers to a fighter, a builder, a guide. Riven found her there. You okay? She turned and smiled. Just thinking, about what? She looked at the sky. About what comes next, Riven nodded. That's the question now. Later, as they repaired a broken part of the shield system, a young boy ran toward them. There's a signal, he shouted, from the beacon. Riven and Sari rushed to the village square. A small message was playing through the device. Static filled the air, but one sentence was clear. Message received. Survivors detected. Stay strong. We are coming, the crowd gasped. Did you hear that? Sari whispered. Riven smiled. Someone heard us. Excitement spread through the village. People began preparing, cleaning the beacon, building a new landing area beside the old crash site. Sari helped paint a sign with large letters in 2 languages. Welcome HFY. Riven watched the people work, full of hope and joy. He knew more challenges would come, but for now they had made a sound in the silence, a call, a promise, a spark. That night, Sari stood with Riven under the stars. You brought us a story, she said. No, Riven replied. You all became the story. They watched the sky together, waiting for the next chapter to begin. 3 weeks had passed since the message was sent into space. Each night, the people of Luma 3 looked up at the sky, waiting. The desert wine still blew, and the sun still rose. But something had changed. There was hope in every face, hope that someone had heard them and was coming. Riven checked the beacon systems every day. It still glowed with steady light. More people from nearby lands had come to live in the village. What was once a quiet home of a few now became a growing center, a place where human spirit was alive again, and in the middle of it all, Sari walked with quiet confidence. No longer just a helper, she had become a guide, a teacher, and a symbol of change. One evening, as the sun began to fall behind the red hills, Riv and stood on a high point overlooking the village. Sari joined him, carrying a small bag of supplies. "You still watch the sky every evening," she said, smiling. "Old habit," Riven replied. "Do you think they'll come tonight?" "Maybe," he said, "or maybe tomorrow, but they'll come." "They answered us. I believe that." Sari nodded and sat beside him. "When I was little, I used to think the stars were just lights. Now I know they carry voices and memories. They also carry people," Riven said, "and sometimes they carry home." That night, as the village slept, the sky lit up with a strange blue glow. A sound followed, deep, smooth, and steady. It was not thunder, it was something else. Riven woke immediately. His wrist device began blinking fast. Sari ran out of her house and looked up. A ship was entering the atmosphere, but this was not a warship. It was peaceful. Round in shape, shining silver, with soft lights and no weapons pointed. It moved gently, like a bird returning to its nest. The village bells rang. People came out of their homes and pointed to the sky. "They're here," Riven whispered. "After all this time, they found us." The ship landed slowly just outside the village, near the old crash site where Riven had once fallen. Dust rose gently, but no blast came. The engines powered down. The crowd waited. Silent. The ship's door opened. 3 figures stepped out, 2 women and 1 man. They wore Earth symbols on their clothes, but the design was new and strange. Their faces were calm, their eyes filled with emotion. One of them stepped forward and spoke into a small device. The words came through clearly. "We are from the Terran Restoration Fleet. We received your message. We are here to bring you home." The villagers cheered. Tears flowed, smiles spread across every face. Children clapped. Elders bowed their heads. Riven felt a deep weight lift from his heart. Home was no longer a dream, it had returned. Later, in the village square, the new visitors shared their story. After Earth fell, a few human fleets had survived. They had gone into hiding, building small colonies in secret. Over the years, they searched for old signals, hoping to find others. "Your message reached us," said the lead officer, a woman named Captain Ellen. "It gave us hope." "You reminded us who we are?" They brought medicine, books, and new tools. They repaired the beacon and shared maps of the galaxy, maps with bright lights showing where other human outposts had survived. "There are more of us?" Sari asked. Amazed. "Yes," Ellen replied. "Not many, but enough to rebuild." Riven watched the new arrivals carefully. He was happy, but thoughtful. Captain Ellen noticed and walked over. "You were the one who protected the beacon." "I only helped," Riven said. She smiled. "Sometimes helping is everything." She looked at Sari, who was speaking with some young officers and teaching them the village words. "You've built something strong here," Ellen said. Riven nodded. "Yes, stronger than I ever expected." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "We could use people like you. The fleet needs leaders." Riven looked at Sari, then at the village. "I'll think about it, but this is where I found my strength again." That night, a second celebration was held. This time, it was not just for survival, but for reunion. For the future, Sari sat beside Riven, watching the stars. "Again, they asked me if I wanted to leave," she said softly. "To go with them. What did you say?" I said. "Not yet. There's still more to do here. People still need to learn. And I want to teach them." Riven smiled. "You chose well." She looked at him. "What about you?" "I think I'll stay too. At least until this world doesn't need me anymore." They sat quietly, then Sari reached into her bag and pulled out a small metal charm. "It's from the beacon," she said. "An old Earth symbol. I kept it. I want you to have it." Riven held it in his hand, a simple, star-shaped charm. It felt warm. "Thank you," he said. "For everything." "No," she replied gently. "Thank you for teaching me a better way." Above them the stars still burned, but now they were no longer silent. They carried stories. They carried voices. And once again, they carried hope.